Good morning, welcome to the Williamson County Board of Commissioners meeting. It's Monday, December 30th, 2024. It's 8:21 a.m. Roll call, please.
Tim Atkinson.
Present.
Jim Marlowe.
Present.
Jim Ray.
Present.
All right. Top of the agenda is old business, the DevNet contract. This is to provide CAMA and Wade software for the assessor's office. We had some changes on that. We wanted some liquidated damages.
Correct.
On that. Actually, you worked with that to make sure that we got what we had to have for your
Yeah.
office.
So I went through the contract with Amanda and Jeff and with Josh. We were comfortable with the timeline, so went over the feedback with Red. We put in liquidated damages, sent it back to DevNet. DevNet wanted a sunset provision in the liquidated damages just so it wouldn't go, be ongoing. So they set a time limit in there, obviously stated that if we got to that point, there's a major problem, with everything. So as long as you're okay with the sunset provision, I mean, we're ready to move forward. We've got all the back end stuff. I think we're ready on. So execute a contract. So text Scott that it's on its way. They can put us in dark ink.
It's,
We're ready to go.
all we have to do is hit on the dates.
We have to hit our dates, then everything should, fall into place. As long like that, obviously Jeff and Josh have made the commitment to get everything done. And I think they're pretty much on schedule, if not just slightly. So I think we're going to do okay.
Our unique challenge, as I understood it, was the split. That as the assessor's office moves into the new software, the treasurer's office is going to run the older software for one billing cycle.
Well, not exactly. So like we'll go ahead and send out our mobile home bills and take our prepayments in the old side, in the old software. But I think you all have agreed that we're going to allow Mark to write some kind of patch or some kind of program to let us do an import from his software into the DevNet system so that we can just migrate all of that. Because whenever we do the cutoff point, DevNet will start to import and let them start with the assessor side and putting all their information in. And even in their dead period, they've already got a plan to hire in some additional people just for data input only. Then on Amanda's side, they're going to walk in with her and Janice and walk them through doing the extension. So that'll all be on the DevNet side. And then we'll import, or once we get those rates cut and everything looks according, looks proper, then we will then do the import of the prepayments, import of the mobile home, and then start, printing bills on our side. So we've got that lined out. We've already discussed it with everybody. I mean, Mark's aware of that we're moving forward. I'll confirm it that the contract's been signed, but I mean, as long as you're okay with paying that, out of contingency, to be able to whatever his charges are.
And he's already done this in Jefferson.
He's done it, but in Jefferson it was delayed, and I think they delayed their mobile home billing and then did take prepayments, but their stuff got put back in November. Obviously, our goal is to have bills sent out by end of August, 1st of September at the latest. So we're holding to that line. So that's why we need that additional, programming, charges and invoices that Jefferson County didn't have to deal with. But, we're the second group that we'll work with going from the BBAM system into DevNet. So they've already had they've already worked with, I think, some of the hurdles they have now to be able to know what to ask for. So I think it should work as smooth as a convergent can. There's always going to be something, and we have more data than because we were the original group that went on to BBAM, whereas Jefferson County and even Perry County were later. So that means they're going to have to migrate 25 years worth of stuff, into ours, whereas I think they were 10 to 15 at the most. So there's a lot of data to do, but hopefully that timeline that we gave them will be able to get that.
Referencing Jefferson County, then, is it realistic to think a bad case scenario for us would be no worse than what we were this year in time?
Well, we were a little ahead of schedule in timing this year.
Understood.
I'd say no worse than a prior year. We were way behind and we had to extend board review and everything and not get the bills out until September. And then October, November, 2 days back to back.
Right.
Worst case scenarios, we're gonna have 30 days in between. Same exact cycle where we'll have due dates in October, November, send out delinquencies in December, publish in January, have a tax sale at the end of January. Just, like we did. We just maybe won't have that 30-day gap in between of the first and second installments like we did. But,
Jim, you have any questions?
cross our fingers and hope for the best. What do you got?
Well, once said hope was not a plan, so.
I understand. We're making every,
The Mark is comfortable doing it.
I mean, obviously, Mark, has had a long-standing relationship with us and he's done well with us. So, I mean, you never like to see
And all in all, he's done a good
our
job.
relationship break up, but, for the benefit of the county overall, it's something that has to be done. And there's no perfect timeline in getting something done. This is the best case scenario. Obviously, constrained deadline to 120 working days. They probably haven't ever done it before, but they say that it's.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen, this contract, my 5-year term. The first year will be the last one I have this morning. $78,420. Next year, $71,988.32. Following year, $72,163.40. And the last 2 years will be $72,338.63 and $72,513.71. Is there a motion to approve this 5-year contract?
What page you see?
It was on 16, Jim, I'm sorry. Yeah, do you need a moment to look at that?
No, I was just trying to look at
Okay.
If you need it, that's a budgeted item that you've already budgeted.
that.
We want to budget.
Right, yeah, I know, yeah. So,
Okay, so Commissioner Marlowe makes a motion to approve this 5-year contract. We need a second. Roll call, please.
Tim Matheson.
Yes.
Jim Marlowe.
yeah,
Jim Razor.
that's what we needed.
I'm happy about this. I hate spending money, but I'm happy
Yeah.
about this.
It'll be a big thing that the county share on every department as we get comfortable with the software.
I do think we need to be prepared for unforeseen hardware upgrades.
Agreed.
To make sure we're up to speed that this all works. I mean, we're dealing with different versions of that all across the county right now, different things, so.
I did reach out to, speaking of, I did reach out to Mayor, and they have confirmed me twice that our stuff is ready, the software is ready to go, it'll be on site, we need to be on site. Got those assurances from them. But like you said, last second plans, you just, it's gonna happen, we need to build it, move quickly.
And we have that ability.
Yeah.
Fairly good.
Okay, does anybody have any business for this board? Hearing none, we'll move on down to resolutions. We have a year-end appropriations transfer, something that we do every year. You guys have an opportunity to look through this?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions or concerns? Comments?
I don't even know she needs to show, I mean, I'll just do it.
Okay, I make a motion that we accept resolution of 2412-30-48, year appropriations transfer. Second?
Can you make that retroactive to 11/30 fiscal year?
I'm sorry. Yeah, retroactive to 11/30.
Second.
It's part of the motion. There is a second. Any more comments or concerns? Roll call, please.
Tim Matheson.
Yay.
Jim Marlowe.
Yeah.
Jim Razor.
Yeah.
I slipped my mind, actually. It wasn't up here.
I mean, I can have it late next time.
That's fine. We don't do it again until next year. I'm sure I'll stumble over anything. Moving on down, ordinance, ARPA ordinance. And, correct me, actually, if this is not true. We had to do this because the final rules change.
Yeah,
Treasurer
so
changed.
sometime in October, I received an email along with probably everybody else that is on the Treasury portal that previously it was discussed and it was understood that the allowable exception of lost revenue, any entity that received the funds could obligate it without having documentable obligations. So whenever you're entering in a project, let's use Players of the Water District, for example, you're typing in the amount, you're typing in the use, the need, everything else, and then every quarter you're telling the system how much you've advanced and how much is left on the project. So it was kind of our understanding, or everyone's understanding at the time, was that there was going to be roughly $500,000 to $600,000 left that you guys hadn't committed. So we were going to, treat that as unobligated, but take that under that allowable exception. I then was on a conference call or webinar that stated that not only did you have to take the allowable exception, but then you also have to have actual obligations, just like you did for every other project. Or if you provided an award to the subrecipient had to have an executed either contract or agreement of services or something to show that work was being performed. Many of the different, groups that we've had have kind of looked at doing this on a piecemeal basis or as needed basis and didn't have true actual contracts in place with contractors and general contractors. So everyone's been scrambling in the last hour. There's been a lot of different information passed back and forth. I mean, Rhett's consulting with several other counties that are, I think, in worse shape than what we were and having, a minimal amount of obligation. But then whenever I ran all the numbers and started looking at what was considered to be unobligated and that we've gotten well into $1.5 million, so more. So what we need to do is identify and do an ordinance to obligate all of those funds up to like a particular amount. So just to put it on record and make everybody understand, because I know there's concern about either double dipping or overlapping. The way that the county is set up and the way we've always set up this ARPA fund and any other grants that we have is that you're in a silo. So we have an ARPA fund standalone account that is only funded by the 2 tranches that we receive. And the only thing we do is disperse money out of that to fund the projects into an ARPA clearing account. There have been a couple of reverse transfers whenever we had either over advanced money or there was a miscommunication and we put some money. So I can't say that it's only had disbursements, but the ARPA clearing account is for disbursements only. And those are where all the checks are written out of. So those are funded solely through the ARPA accounts. Then any other, grants that we receive, whether it be like a downstate business grant or a cures fund or general assistance through EMA, have all either been through a standalone or through a trust. So all of those are paid, from a different account that's fully documented, that has its own set of numbers and everything else. So I pulled everything out of our capital improvements account, which is funded solely through our general fund budget. So what I listed down for you was all things that are that I believe are associated with allowable uses through ARPA, which was primarily public safety and some infrastructure, and then just general expansion of government services. So that meant all the squad cars, all the laptops that we purchased, any upfits, any like the repeaters, radios, that type of thing. The two purchases that we've had for, the buildings on the corner of Jackson Street to expand the campus, as well as the other Jackson Street property with the Ross building and being able to move EMA storage and the sheriff storage and everything else, over there. And I don't know if I included the Tesla building, that may be an additional.
What about the premium pay?
Premium pay has already been included, and that was an original ARPA request, and we had a premium pay 1 and premium pay 2.
Okay.
So those are not in there. I know a lot of the counties have used what you would consider premium pay to reimburse their sheriff's department and any other EMA or nursing home to be able to offset this, but I didn't include any of that at all. These are true like capital purchases that I feel that are easily documented. I have invoices and everything that we can produce for reimbursement.
So what he's done in short terms are those ARPA applications and awards that you guys have already approved. Those are not included in this ordinance. This ordinance covers anything that was left over, as well as some extra on the off chance that, say you gave the House of Hope 100,000 and they only spent 80. Instead of having to give 20,000 back to the federal government, it has it allocated that we can give that 20,000 to another general fund item back to us so that we don't have to return the funds. So that's what's happened there. And what I did is I took Ashley's spreadsheet that came up with the 3 million and let me make sure since we're on record, 3,495,813 and 25 cents and have it itemized out. And we have an amount not to exceed. And so that way, if we don't need it, then we won't have it. But if we do need it, we do have it. And that's our best guess in trying to operate this with the feds. So that is exactly what we've done on that. Now, other places, as you were asking, Jim, they said reimburse for salary from this period to this period, and reimburse from salary or for salary from this period to that period, et cetera. Instead of utilizing salary, we had enough improvements that are eligible ARPA expenditures to go ahead and list out 3 million plus in those, as opposed to taking the chance on whether or not they say those were essential service personnel and their salaries were eligible. So that's what Ashley and I were trying to figure out. And what other places we're trying to figure out.
Yeah, and I don't know, it avoids the double dipping thing about like premium, because we've given premium pay, but that was a separate amount over and above what those,
What the original payment.
Payments were. But we've spent a fair amount of money on these things. This is easier to track and to pull real fast. I don't have to pull, specific departments and all of their payroll registers and everything like that. And
yeah, my biggest concern, and I told Ashley that, and that's why he's talking about the double dipping as well, is I knew that we had some AOIC grant money for computer expenditures, and we had, different pots in different places. And I wanted to make sure that the servers and the computers and the mayor network type of things weren't already allocated or paid for out of one grant versus another. So that's the reason I really stress, let's make sure that we have those separated, and he's indicated that is true.
there's an AOSC grant trust fund that all those, that I have to deal with John Murray and that. So that's another separate, everything is separate. I mean, we do not commingle any of those things. So there's a definitive payroll or disbursement register, GL report we can print to hone in on that stuff. So I'm confident that this is correct. I've talked to several of these groups because they're all freaking out because they're like, we're taking all this money. I'm still going to track everything exactly as I've tracked it. We have different spreadsheets for every single project, so whatever's left over, I mean, we'll be putting it in, all the money's staying in the ARPA account, not like transferring it. And I guess this is more just an on paper deal that says this is what we can do if needed. But most of these are just spent.
None of that fund, none of those funds will be transferred to any of these. It's just on paper.
We just have to obligate it. The only time I have to transfer will be December 31st, 2026.
Yeah.
Nothing is,
Any project not completed.
project not
we need to
completed,
utilize.
yeah, it'll be some kind of.
I'm sure it will change before we get it.
I'm sure it will. I mean, obviously, this was a move that nobody was aware of at all, or completely misinterpreted all across the country.
Well, yeah, a lot of people thought that they could just simply say lost revenue and leave it at that.
Well, initially they said that's exactly what you could do.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
I was one of those people, and I was thinking.
Well, no, I mean, it's,
At the end, what'd you say?
there's literal releases that say that's, you just had to, even if you didn't have lost revenue, you could still take the up to $10 million lines. We thought about doing that, and we're like, yeah, we have all these projects, let's just go ahead and keep going the way we're going, and then here on December 31st, we'll just.
I think we all had kind of an idea about, at the end of this, how much money we thought we would end up. All right, gentlemen, are there any other questions about this ordinance? All right, I make a motion that we accept ordinance number 24-12-30-08. And that is the ARPA ordinance. I guess that's good enough for a name for this. It says this the ordinance. That's my motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Jim Anderson.
Yeah.
Jim Marlowe.
Yeah.
Jim Morrison.
Okay, we'll keep our fingers crossed on that one. All right, moving on down. Is there any public comment? Anything to say? All right, moving on down to miscellaneous. Did you have any ARPA or anything else?
I mean, I've got 2 or 3, but I was waiting to see what we were doing with this before I even messed with those, so.
Okay, can they wait until?
They can wait until the next meeting.
Okay.
They're small amounts and even if they're not.
Is anybody have anything to talk about in miscellaneous? Okay, the very end, before we finish, is there any need for us to go into close today?
Not
Not
that
anything,
important.
any personal issues or anything else we need to talk about? Okay. One last thing that I do have, over at the Ross building, the sheriff was needing some room to put, the stuff that was out at the ordinance area, out at Fish and Wildlife. And I met with him, last week over there. And he's got a nice space. There's a very nice space for him to put into that, put his stuff into. But he did notice the big metal building over there. And he's asked if we've made any determination on what we're gonna put into that bigger building. And I told him I would ask you guys, what he's seen is that building it's a standalone building. It's an all metal building. And it's much easy to secure these items that he has. Once again, a lot of these items are stolen materials that are maybe awaiting trial or whatever. And so he's asked if he could have that building. I haven't answered him yet on that. I think it's a little bit early probably to tell him that he can have that building. Just want you guys to consider that, unless you feel strongly that he should have that part of that facility. Then I can tell him that. Just letting you guys kind of guide me which way you want me to go with that.
The concern that's been put in my head and actually came from the courts and the state's attorney is that much of what was placed on the refuge, the sheriff's office, was not secured. That even the day I went out just to look, and the fact that I could see those items and walk up to them, it wasn't secure. So we just have to make sure whatever we do over there, that we take care of that situation.
Yeah.
And only the people that have the permission to be there can get there. And I've not walked the facility. I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
But that word secure, needs to be taken seriously here, I think, so.
So there's a building over there that's about maybe 80 to 100 feet long, maybe 30, 40 feet deep. And it has a handful of bays in there. And he can secure the doors, all the doors on the entrances. He can secure all those doors. So I think he was happy when I talked with him about the security there. He was happy with that building, meeting those security requirements. Just maybe upgrade locks and those kinds of things. Where he's putting his materials now is across the parking area into the end of that, the office building. It's a concrete block area that's about 26, 25 foot square. And it has only an overhead door and a walk-through door, and everything else is concrete block door entrances. He can secure his materials, and he has enough room right now to secure the materials from refuge. The problem is that I think he's got quite a bit of stuff out on another off-site secure area that he's paying rent for. It's a lot of stuff. That's what he was mentioning to me.
Are these boxes or is it all?
It's chainsaws and wood splitters, and four-wheelers, who knows? This is just.
There are some boxes.
I didn't know if it was evidence boxes, you know, if it was that type of stuff.
Did you say
Evidence
these boxes
stays over
out there? Well, they're, okay, 'cause
Well, there were some form of case files. I'm not
okay,
savvy enough to know what I was walking past.
Right.
Um,
so there could be documents. When I was out at the refuge, I don't know, maybe I did, I don't remember noticing those documents. But they were.
I know that there was a sign on the front of, they were like in two rows. The one said destroy.
Yeah.
I've never been back. I don't know. I can't talk to that. The other one wasn't labeled that way, so I just assumed it needed to be stored
Keep
for another length of time. But I do remember seeing some of that.
But he's wanting open space as opposed to like the Drew building where he could store it in.
Yeah, yeah,
He's wanting
he needs,
to roll stuff in and out type.
yeah,
Right,
I mean,
that's what I didn't know.
he could have four-wheelers or file cabinets. I have no idea what he's gonna try to store. I know that right now, I think he's got, maybe there might be some pool equipment, like pool tables and that kind of stuff that he may be confiscated or bust or something.
Are you talking about that big white building right there?
Yeah,
Man, I thought Amanda was gonna be able to store election equipment somewhere.
well, that's why we need to have this discussion about this. This is why I'm not sure that we can tell him what's gonna be what until we actually,
We can put up a wall
yeah, we
and
could.
split the building once he's determined how much of it he needs. And what he needs, but if it doesn't fill the building, we put a wall up to one of the other doors.
Great.
My thought was we were gonna be able to move a lot of different offices to be able to utilize some storage out here.
I think right now it's too early.
I think it's a little bit early, and that's kind of how I started this off.
And, take it under advisement. Go from there, but it's too early to make a decision on it. Find it odd that equipment and everything had been out the refuge all this time. Security wasn't an issue. Now it seems to be an issue. So I think we got all these other offices. So.
Right. The point of this was to inform you guys that he was using a little bit of the building, and that's on the office space. And it's at the north end of the office space, and it's about 25 square foot, 25 by 25 space he's using now. And then he's asked to have the other building for storage. And I think it's early for us to tell him.
Too early.
Once again, I needed some guidance from you guys on that.
And I think that we also need to have it in place too for anybody who moves into anything. Plan for them to move out if items or things change.
Yeah.
And we need to rearrange for whatever the reason may be, that they have to move their stuff as well. So. I think it's just too early.
I think it's a little bit early, and I'll relay that to the sheriff. Okay? Anything else on that building over there? Does anybody have anything else for this meeting? before we adjourn. Hearing nothing else, I make a motion that we adjourn today.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Jim Matheson.
Okay.
Jim Marlowe.
Okay.
Jim Reeser.
Thank you, gentlemen. Amanda, how much stuff do you have? You know how much your stuff you're gonna have over there?